My name is Ethan Miller. I'm 24, and I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this. I live in a small town in Ohio, one of those places where everyone knows your car before they know your name. I'm writing this now because if I don't, it feels like the last year of my life never really happened, like it'll just rot inside my chest. It started on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic. No rain. No shouting. Just a quiet, ordinary Tuesday that ruined everything. I had been dating Lily Carter, 23, for almost 3 years. High school sweethearts turned serious adult couple, or at least that's what I told myself. We rented a small place near Main Street. Same coffee shop every morning. Same bar on Fridays. Same future, or so I thought. That morning, Lily left her phone on the kitchen counter. She never did that. I wasn't snooping. I swear that matters to me, even now. Her phone buzzed while I was pouring coffee. One notification, then another. I glanced over without thinking. A name I didn't recognize. Can't stop thinking about last night. I didn't touch the phone. My hands actually shook, so I wrapped them around the mug to steady myself. I told myself there was an explanation. There's always an explanation if you're desperate enough to believe one. When Lily came back from the shower, I asked her casually, maybe too casually, "Who's Mark?" She froze. Not long, just half a second, but I saw it. That tiny pause cracked something open inside me. She laughed. "Coworker." "Why?" I nodded like that was enough. Like my chest wasn't screaming at me that something was wrong. The truth didn't come out that day. Or the next. It came out slowly, in pieces, the worst way possible. Late nights. Sudden overtime. Her pulling away when I touched her, like my hands belonged to someone else. 2 weeks later, I followed her. I'm not proud of it, but I did. She said she was staying late at work. Instead, she parked behind a bar on the edge of town, the kind locals don't usually go to. I sat in my car across the street, heart pounding so hard I thought it might shatter my ribs. Then I saw him. Mark. Older than me. Confident. Comfortable in his skin in a way I wasn't. I watched her smile at him the way she used to smile at me. That was the moment I knew. I didn't confront her right away. I went home, sat on the couch, and stared at the wall until the sun came up. When she finally walked in, smelling like someone else's cologne, I asked her one question. "How long?" She cried. They always cry when the lie finally collapses. 2 months, she said. 2 months. While we planned vacations. While she told me she loved me. I moved out that night. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that leaving Lily wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning. Because 3 weeks later, in the most unexpected place, I met Claire Donovan, 34. And everything changed. I didn't meet Claire Donovan in some dramatic, movie-worthy way. No sparks flying across the room, no slow motion. I met her because my car wouldn't start. 3 weeks after I left Lily, I was barely functioning. I slept on my buddy's couch, went to work, came home, repeated. I stopped going to the usual places because everywhere reminded me of her. Same streets, same faces, same damn memories. That morning, my car just died. Outside a small bookstore near the edge of town, one I'd never noticed before. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, fighting the urge to scream. Rough morning. I looked up and saw her standing a few feet away, holding a paper cup of coffee. Claire. Tall, calm posture, mid-30s, brown hair pulled back loosely. She didn't look at me like I was broken. Just human. "Yeah," I said. "You could say that." She smiled lightly. "I own the place. Bookstore, not the car. But I do have jumper cables." That's how it started. Not fate. Not destiny. Just bad luck and a working battery. While we waited for the car to turn over, we talked. Normal things. Weather. Small town complaints. She didn't ask too many questions, and I appreciated that more than she probably knew. When my car finally started, I thanked her and tried to leave. She stopped me. "You look like someone who hasn't eaten today," she said. "There's a diner next door." On me. I almost said no. I should have said no, but I didn't. Over eggs and burnt coffee, I told her the short version. Girlfriend cheated. I moved out. Life felt hollow. I didn't expect to say that much, but something about her made it easy. She listened, really listened, without interrupting, without trying to fix me. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "You know, being betrayed doesn't make you weak. Staying silent about it does." No one had said that to me before. I learned more about her that day. 34 years old. Divorced. Moved to town 5 years ago to start over. No kids. No drama. At least none she volunteered. We didn't exchange numbers right away. That came later, after I went back to the bookstore by accident, a few days later. Then again the next week. Our conversations stayed safe at first. Books, music, life in small towns. She never flirted, never crossed a line. That restraint made her more dangerous than Lily ever was. One afternoon, she looked at me over the counter and said, "You're not as okay as you pretend to be." I laughed. Is it that obvious? To someone who's been there? Yeah. That was the first time she told me about her ex-husband. The lies. The manipulation. The way betrayal doesn't explode, it erodes. Slowly. Quietly. That night, after I left, I sat in my car and realized something uncomfortable. I felt calm around her. Not excited. Not obsessed. Calm. Meanwhile, Lily didn't disappear. She texted. Apologized. Asked to talk. Told me it didn't mean anything, which somehow hurt more than if it had. I ignored her, but the town didn't. Word got around. People chose sides without asking for mine. I heard Lily was still seeing Mark. I heard he was married. I heard things I didn't want to know. One evening, I told Claire everything. About Lily. About Mark. About the lies. She didn't get angry. She didn't judge. She just said, "Some people don't lose until they're forced to face themselves." At the time, I didn't realize how important that sentence would become, because what started as conversation was turning into connection. And connection, I would learn, is where real damage and real revenge begins. By the time autumn settled in, Claire Donovan had become part of my routine. Not in a loud way. Not the kind of presence that takes over your life overnight. She was just there. A constant. A place where my thoughts could slow down instead of spiraling. I started stopping by the bookstore after work. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. I'd sit in the corner, pretending to read, listening to the soft music she always played. Old rock, low volume, like it didn't want to be noticed. One night, she locked the door early. "Town's dead," she said, flipping the sign. "Walk with me." We didn't go far. Just around the block. Leaves crunching under our feet. The air cold enough to make excuses for standing close. "You ever think about confronting her?" Claire asked casually. "Every day," I said. "And every day I don't." "Why?" I thought about it. "Because I don't want to beg for the truth. Or hear excuses." She nodded. "That's restraint. Not weakness." No one had ever framed it that way before. Lily, on the other hand, was losing patience with my silence. The texts turned sharper. Less apology, more guilt. "You're really just going to throw everything away? Mark was a mistake. You're not even trying." I didn't respond. But I saved them. I don't know why. Maybe part of me already knew they'd matter later. Claire noticed the change in me before I did. "You're carrying something heavier lately," she said one afternoon. "What is it?" I hesitated. Then I handed her my phone. She read the messages slowly, carefully. When she handed it back, her expression wasn't angry. It was analytical. "She wants control back," she said. "Not you." That hit harder than any insult Lily had ever thrown at me. Over the next few weeks, our conversations deepened. Not romantically, not yet. Emotionally. We talked about regret. About the versions of ourselves we mourn after betrayal. About how small towns magnify mistakes because there's nowhere to hide. One night, after too much talking and not enough sleep, Claire admitted something. "I didn't leave my marriage because he cheated," she said. "I left because he lied so well that I started doubting my own memory." That scared me, because I recognized that feeling. The shift happened quietly. No declaration. No kiss. Just a moment where I realized I trusted her more than anyone else in town. The first time I touched her, it was accidental. Our hands brushed when she passed me a book. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. We both noticed. We both pretended not to. Until one evening, Lily showed up at the bookstore. I wasn't there. But Claire told me later. "She wanted to see what kind of woman you replaced her with," Claire said, calm but honest. She smiled the whole time. Asked questions that weren't really questions. That night, something inside me snapped. Not violently, but decisively. I told Claire everything I'd been holding back. About following Lily. About Mark. About the humiliation of realizing the town knew before I did. When I finished, Claire was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You don't need revenge to heal." I nodded. "I know." She looked at me. "But sometimes accountability looks like revenge to the guilty." That was the first time the idea took shape. Not screaming. Not exposure for the sake of cruelty. Just truth. At the right time. In the right way. We didn't plan anything that night. We just sat there, closer than before, the space between us charged with something new. Trust. And something else neither of us was ready to name yet. The line between friendship and something else didn't blur all at once. It thinned. One evening, after closing the bookstore, Claire poured 2 glasses of cheap red wine into paper cups. We sat on the floor between shelves, backs against the wall. It felt intimate without being intimate, if that makes sense. You don't flinch when I talk about her anymore, she said. I still feel it, I replied. I just don't let it drive. She smiled. That's growth. I laughed. Or exhaustion. We talked until the town outside went quiet. When I stood to leave, I hesitated. So did she. For a second, neither of us moved. I'm not ready, I said too quickly. I know, she replied, just as fast. No kiss. No touching. Just an understanding that landed heavier than either. The next week, Lily escalated. She cornered me outside the grocery store. Same aisle. Same cereal we used to buy together. So this is it, she said. You're really done? Yes, I said. Calm. Clear. Her smile hardened. Is it because of her? I didn't answer. She leaned in, voice low. She won't last. Women like that get bored. I walked away. That night, I told Claire what Lily had said. She listened, then asked one question. Does Mark's wife know? I froze. What? She shrugged. Small towns run on information. I hear things. I hadn't even considered that angle. Not because I was protecting Lily, but because part of me didn't want to open that door. Claire didn't push. She never did. She just planted seeds and let me decide whether to water them. A few days later, Lily texted again. This time, not guilt, strategy. Mark's leaving his wife. We're serious. You should hear it from me. I showed Claire. She studied the message, then said quietly, if that's true, someone's about to lose more than they think. The first time Claire touched me on purpose was later that night. She rested her hand on my arm while we sat at the counter. It wasn't sexual. It was grounding. You're allowed to move on, she said. I looked at her. Really looked. Lines of experience at the edges of her eyes. Confidence without cruelty. Strength without noise. I leaned in first. Slow. Giving her time to stop me. She didn't. The kiss was brief. Controlled. Almost cautious. When we pulled back, neither of us smiled. This changes things, I said. Yes, she replied. So we need to be intentional. We were. We didn't rush. No overnight stays. No public displays. Just quiet moments and deliberate choices. The passion was there. Restrained, simmering, more dangerous because of it. Meanwhile, information kept surfacing. Mark wasn't leaving his wife. Not yet. Lily was pushing him, pressuring him. And his wife, Sarah, 31, was starting to suspect. Claire didn't suggest anything. She simply said, truth has momentum. You can either step aside or guide it. That night, I made a decision. Not to hurt Lily. Not to humiliate her. But to stop protecting her lies. I found Sarah's social media. Public. Open. Full of smiling photos that now felt painfully familiar. I didn't message her. Not yet. I told Claire what I was thinking. She met my eyes. If you do this, do it clean. Facts only. No emotion. That was her rule. And it became mine. Because real revenge doesn't scream. It waits. Once you decide to act, the waiting becomes heavier than the hurt. I didn't rush. Claire wouldn't have let me, even if I wanted to. She insisted on patience, on precision. Emotions make noise, she said. Facts don't. So we gathered facts. Not in a creepy way. Not hacking or stalking. Just paying attention. Small towns make that easy. People talk. Schedules repeat. Patterns form. Mark worked construction. Early mornings. Late afternoons. Fridays at the same bar. Lily adjusted her life around his availability, not mine, something I saw clearly only in hindsight. Claire helped me organize everything. Dates. Times. Screenshots Lily had sent me before I blocked her. Messages that contradicted each other. Promises that didn't line up. This isn't about destroying them, Claire reminded me. It's about removing their ability to lie. The first real test came when Lily showed up again. This time, at my friend's place. Unannounced. You've been ignoring me, she said, like I owed her attention. I'm moving on, I replied. With her? She asked, eyes sharp. Yes. That lie, or half-truth, landed harder than any confession. Her face changed. Not sad. Not angry. Calculating. Just be careful, she said. You don't know who she really is. I almost laughed. That night, Claire and I crossed a line. Emotionally, not physically. She told me she cared. I told her I was scared. Good, she said. Means you're honest. We agreed on boundaries. This wasn't a rebound. This wasn't a weapon. If it ever became either, we'd stop. Then came the message from Sarah. Not to me. To Claire. She'd come into the bookstore earlier that day. Browsed too long. Asked questions that weren't about books. Does Ethan come here often? She asked. Claire didn't lie. She never did. She also didn't volunteer. That night, Sarah sent the bookstore page a message. Polite. Careful. Curious. Hi. I hope this isn't strange. I think our lives might overlap in a way I don't fully understand. Claire showed me. This is the moment, she said. If you step in, do it as yourself. I wrote the message. Deleted it. Wrote it again. Hi, Sarah. My name is Ethan. I don't want to cause harm. I just believe you deserve clarity. I attached nothing. No accusations. No screenshots. She replied an hour later. Can we talk? We met in public. A diner halfway between our neighborhoods. Daytime. Neutral ground. She was calmer than I expected. Stronger, too. I think my husband is cheating, she said. I just don't know with who. I told her the truth. All of it. Slowly. Carefully. I showed her dates. Messages. Locations. Nothing edited. Nothing exaggerated. She didn't cry right away. She asked questions. Precise ones. When she finally did cry, it was quiet. Controlled. Thank you, she said, for not letting me look stupid any longer. I walked out feeling lighter. Not victorious. Just aligned. The fallout didn't hit immediately. It never does. But Lily sensed the shift. Her messages turned frantic. Then silent. Mark stopped coming to the bar. Then stopped coming to work. And one evening, Claire looked at me and said, "This isn't the end yet." She was right. Because the truth had been released. And truth doesn't stop moving once it's free. I didn't plan the last conversation with Lily Carter. If I had, I probably would have avoided it. It happened on a Sunday afternoon, the town quiet in that uncomfortable way that makes everything feel exposed. I was leaving the gym when I saw her sitting on the hood of her car across the street. Same car. Same posture. Different energy. Took you long enough, she said when I approached. I stopped a few feet away. No anger. No tension. Just distance. What do you want, Lily? She crossed her arms. To understand how you became this person. I almost smiled. Almost. This person? I asked. You mean someone who stopped lying for you? Her jaw tightened. You didn't have to go that far. I didn't go anywhere, I replied. I told the truth and let it walk. That's when the mask finally slipped. She accused me of humiliating her, of turning the town against her, of using Claire to hurt her. That's the part you don't get, I said calmly. Claire didn't help me hurt you. She helped me stop protecting you. Silence stretched between us. Then she said something I didn't expect. I never thought you'd actually leave. There it was. The core of it. Not love. Not regret. Entitlement. I thought you'd yell, she continued. Fight. Beg. I thought you'd want me to choose you. I shook my head slowly. I wanted you to be honest. She laughed bitterly. That was never enough for you. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone I no longer recognized. Or maybe someone I finally did. This is the last conversation we're having, I said. She scoffed. Because she told you to? No, I said. Because I finally know who I am without you. That was when she cried. Not softly. Not gracefully. Loud. Messy. The kind of crying that's meant to pull people back in. For a split second, I felt it. The old instinct to comfort, to fix. Then it passed. I walked away. That night, I told Claire everything. She listened without interrupting, then said quietly, I'm proud of you. Not, I'm glad. Not, I told you so. Proud. Weeks passed. The town moved on. Scandals always get replaced. New rumors. New mistakes. Mark moved out of state. Sarah finalized the separation. Lily transferred jobs. Eventually, her name stopped coming up altogether. And that's when the real test began. Without conflict, without enemies, without adrenaline, what was left between Claire and me? Turns out, a lot. We argued sometimes. About money. About future plans. About whether small towns shrink you or teach you patience. But the arguments were honest. No manipulation. No silent punishments. One evening, sitting on Claire's porch, she asked, Do you ever regret it? I knew what she meant. No, I said. But I'm glad I didn't become cruel. She nodded. That was my fear. Mine too. The revenge never felt like revenge in the end. It felt like alignment, like stepping out of a lie and letting gravity do the rest. Still, I wondered sometimes, what kind of man would I have become if Claire hadn't been there? I didn't ask her that. Some questions don't need answers. But one thing became clear as winter approached. This story wasn't about Lily anymore. It was about what happens when you stop confusing intensity with love and choose clarity instead. Silence is louder when you're not running from anything. Winter came early that year, the kind of cold that strips things down to their essentials. No lingering outside, no excuses to wander, just indoors, routines, and thoughts that don't have anywhere to hide. With Lily gone from my life completely, I expected relief, closure, some cinematic sense of victory. Instead, I got questions. Claire noticed before I said anything. "You're drifting," she said one morning as we made coffee in her kitchen. "I'm thinking," I replied. She studied me for a moment. "About her?" "No," I said honestly. "About me." That was the truth. Without chaos to react to, I had to face the parts of myself I'd ignored for years. The way I avoided conflict. The way I mistook loyalty for endurance. The way I stayed too long in something broken because leaving felt like failure. Claire never tried to rush those thoughts out of me. One night, snow falling quietly outside, I finally said it out loud. "I'm scared this works because you're older," I said. "Because you know who you are, and I'm still figuring that out." She didn't take offense. She nodded. "That's fair," she said. "But don't confuse age with certainty. I just learned my lessons earlier." "Does that bother you?" I asked. "That I'm still unfinished?" She smiled. "Everyone is unfinished. Some people just pretend better." We spent the holidays together. Nothing dramatic. No big declarations. Just shared routines. Cooking. Reading. Quiet laughter. Still, a decision hovered over us. Unspoken but heavy. Claire had been offered an opportunity. A chance to expand the bookstore into a neighboring town. Bigger space. More exposure. More risk. It would mean leaving. Not far, but far enough to change things. "I don't expect you to follow me," she said when she told me. "And I won't stay if it means resenting you." I appreciated that. The honesty. The lack of pressure. For the first time in my life, someone trusted me to choose freely. I thought about my job, my friends, the comfort of familiarity, the fear of being the younger one, always catching up. And then I thought about who I was before all this happened. Passive, afraid to disrupt, afraid to lose. "I don't want to go back to that," I told her. She didn't smile. She waited. "I don't know exactly where I'm headed," I continued, "but I know who I don't want to be anymore." That night, I lay awake thinking about Lily, not with anger, not with longing, but with distance. Like remembering a town you once lived in but would never return to. I realized something uncomfortable. If Lily had never cheated, I might still be there. Comfortable. Unquestioned. Small. That didn't excuse what she did, but it clarified what I'd avoided. The next morning, I told Claire my answer. "I'm not promising forever," I said, "but I'm choosing forward." She reached for my hand. Not tightly, not possessively. "Forward is enough," she said. The snow kept falling, and for the first time since everything broke apart, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Change doesn't announce itself with certainty. It asks questions and waits to see how you answer. The weeks leading up to Claire's move were heavier than I expected. Not sad, just dense. Every moment felt numbered, even the ordinary ones. Grocery runs, shared dinners, quiet mornings where nothing happened and everything mattered. I didn't tell many people about the plan. In a small town, intentions spread faster than outcomes. I waited until things were real. One evening, my friend asked, "So you're really leaving?" I paused. "I'm really choosing." He nodded like he understood, even if he didn't. The closer the move got, the more Lily's absence became noticeable, not as pain, but as proof. Proof that some chapters end not with drama, but with irrelevance. Then she resurfaced. Not directly. Through someone else. A mutual friend mentioned she'd been asking about me. Whether I was happy. Whether Claire and I were serious. I felt nothing. No spike. No curiosity. That's how I knew. A few days later, I ran into Lily myself. Gas station. Late evening. Fluorescent lights and awkward timing. She looked tired. Thinner. Not broken, just worn. "Hey," she said. "Hey." We stood there for a moment, strangers with shared history. "I heard you're leaving town," she said. "Yes." "With her?" "Yes." She nodded slowly. I guess I just wanted to say, I hope it works. I believed her, or at least believed she wanted to believe it. Thank you, I said. No apology. No closure speech. None was needed. When I got back, Claire was packing books into boxes, careful with the spines like they were living things. I saw Lily, I told her. She looked up. How do you feel? I searched myself honestly. Finished. That night, we talked about fear. Not in abstract terms, in specifics. What if I disappoint you? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Then we deal with it, she said. Not by hiding. Not by rewriting reality. That answer stayed with me. The move wasn't dramatic. One truck. A few friends. No tearful goodbyes to the town. Just motion. As we drove out, I looked back once. Not nostalgically. Just consciously. I wasn't running anymore. In the new town, everything felt unfamiliar in the best way. New streets. New routines. A bookstore with bigger windows. More light. I helped where I could. Learned where I didn't belong. Took space without disappearing. One evening, after closing up, Claire locked the door and leaned against it. This is the part where people usually make promises they can't keep, she said. I smiled. Then let's not. We didn't define ourselves with labels or timelines. We defined ourselves with behavior, with consistency, with honesty even when it was uncomfortable. That night, lying next to her, I realized something simple and profound. The revenge hadn't changed Lily. It had changed me, not by making me harder, but by making me clearer. And clarity, I learned, is the most permanent kind of freedom. They want a winner, a villain, a clean line between right and wrong. But real life doesn't give you that. It gives you lessons and lets you decide whether you'll carry them or ignore them. It's been a year since everything happened. The betrayal, the silence, the truth that refused to stay hidden. I'm 25 now. Older, yes, but more importantly, more aware. The bookstore is doing well. Claire expanded it exactly the way she said she would. Carefully, intentionally. I don't pretend I built it with her. I didn't. But I stood beside her while she did, and that matters more. We still argue sometimes. Not because something's wrong, but because we're honest enough to. There's no scoreboard. No manipulation. No fear of abandonment hanging over every disagreement. That's what healthy feels like. Quiet. Solid. I ran into Sarah once, months after the move. She looked lighter. Grounded. She thanked me again, not for what I did, but for how I did it. That distinction mattered. As for Lily, I don't track her life. I don't need to. The absence of her presence is its own kind of closure. If I'm being completely honest, there are nights when I think about the version of myself that stayed too long. The one who confused loyalty with self-erasure. I don't judge him anymore. He did the best he could with what he knew. Claire once told me something I didn't understand at the time. Betrayal doesn't break you, she said. It reveals where you've been betraying yourself. Now I get it. I used to think revenge meant balance. Pain for pain, loss for loss. But real revenge doesn't leave you satisfied. It leaves you free. Free from needing validation. Free from rehearsing old conversations. Free from defining yourself by someone else's failure. The truth didn't destroy anyone. It just stopped protecting lies. And that was enough. If you're reading this because you're where I was, shocked, humiliated, questioning your worth, hear this clearly. You don't need to win. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be cruel. You just need to stop lying to yourself about what you deserve. Walking away isn't weakness. Staying honest isn't naive. And choosing clarity over chaos will always cost you something, but it will give you back yourself. That's how my story ends. Not with revenge, but with peace.